Good morning. So, you're Vera, right? I'm Trucy White. That's right with a W, but not white, right? We're on your side? You can tell us anything, please? Good morning. She speaks! Not bad, not bad! I think you'd do better with a little smile, you think? You know? You're so pretty, you need to sell yourself, you know? Trucy, let's take it easy for starters. Thank you for taking my case. Okay, well, that's a start, I guess. She goes to the nail polish again. It's great, really. It's so cultured. To try. Ooh, really? Victim, Dr. Missum was a forger. A stolen painting was found in his studio. A life of crime, really? Maybe one that led to his death. Well, you are now in the trial of Misham. Is the judge okay? His voice is all raspy and he's looking around all nervous-like. Yeah. The repercussions of today's trial will most likely be felt for a long time, and may indeed alter our legal system forever. Today is a test of the jury system, and the first step towards a new order in our courts. Teddy's secret mission. The jurors will function like a jury. It is hoped their inclusion will help the courts be better reflect the people's will. Why aren't there any jurors in the courtroom? 3 closed-circuit cameras watch this courtroom at all times. The jurors have access to everything that transpires. Jurist, judge, well, and judge killed. Now see here, Prosecutor Gavin. I was going to say that. My apologies, little judge. Just today, judge today's trial coolly, if you would be so kind. Jurors are unbound by the letter of the law. Don't affect the trial with evidence, but by their feelings. We're about to find out just what effect they are going to have. Very well. Prosecutor Gavin, the details of the case, if you will. The victim is the painter Drew Misham. He was killed in his own studio. His copper was poisoned by whom you ask? But none other than the offended Villa Misham. Objection! There wasn't any poison in the coffee! Someone has been doing their homework. Indeed, the poison was not present in the coffee, but on the mug itself. But how residue was found on the rim, I see. The evidence report describes the manner of our victim's death. The court accepts this as evidence. According to this report, the victim's death was caused by enterochroncium poisoning. A chemical compound that does not occur naturally. Lethal dosage is a mere 0.002 milligram. A touch of enterocrin in the body is the touch of the leaper's size. I got too into it. Very well, Prosecutor Gavin. You may present your first witness. I have for you today a simple man for a simple case. A man who witnessed the murder in its entirety. A journalist, no doubt. The witness will state his name and occupation. Right! Well, for starters, my name's Brushel. My job's a lone observer of the ward. In other words, a freelance journalist, right? If you don't mind, I'd like to state something here for the record. Yes, Mr. Brushel. I dislike conclusions, specifically the aspect of jumping to conclusions. Perceptions make box their box of endless desert race, end quote. But you are a journalist. You said so yourself yesterday. Well, that's true, yeah. But you must understand, I stand before you today a man with a dream. I'm offering you my testimony in exchange for exclusive rights to this story. Scoop turns Mr. Brushel and says that's Mr. Brushel, end quote. Let's hear your testimony then, salary. A simple case, isn't it, Gavin? For me, the jury is still out. I visited the studio around 9 p.m. that night to do the interview. The first outside to enter the atelier. Journalistic history made, end quote. His daughter bought us coffee right after we started. And you know what happened next. Star falls, end quote. No one else entered the room besides her the whole time. That does sound like a simple case. Unless you were the one who poisoned him. What are you saying, Judge? Need I remind you, the cameras are rolling today. I felt the need to be a bit dramatic. You didn't do it, did you? Do a thing like that? Come on, that's like newsmaker making the news, end quote. Or even contemporary witch hunt, end quote. I know. Accusations rock courtroom, end quote. Luck indeed. Prosecutor Gavin so looks like he's having fun. I'm so happy for him. Very well, Mr. Justice. Your cross-examination, please. I visited the studio around 9 p.m. that night to do the interview. The first outside to enter the atelier. Journalistic history made, end quote. His daughter brought us coffee right after we started. And you know what happened next. Star falls, end quote. Hold it! What's this about a star falling? Star falls? Huh, like an old telegram. Send money over. Sorry, you don't know. That's like a journalism code word. The important person has passed away. A star falls. Get it? But there's no gravity in space, is there? I wouldn't think stars could fall, really. Does this matter? Good boy. This is good stuff. Good stuff. How about star breaks? Lax punch. I know. Star dies. Relax imagination. Of course, you can go with 2 dies straight to the point. I like it. You need to give us something a little more substantial. You say Mr. Missom had the coffee too? But did you actually see him drink the coffee? Of course. He who sees it wins. But he who says it wins bigger. End quote. I live in a man sees dog eat dog and whine about it ward yet. I can't say I saw him drink it, really. He had one so-called sip, if that. Man puts the mug, drinks, end quote. Poison's quite alert, I hear. My stomach did a so-called somersault. Since I gulped down the coffee cup so much as a second guess. Wait, maybe something's there. Some kind of so-called trick. Anyone wants to venture a guess? For the record. Does this guy have a pause button? Mr. Justice, did you find that testimony valuable? The victim drank his coffee, then immediately fell over. Oh, yes, you can go to the press with that one. Your Honor, this is a vital piece of information. Please, add it to the testimony. Very well. The witness will add this to his testimony. Vital. Right. He had one say, if that. Next moment he was on the floor. You know what I have a problem with? A particular property of the poison used, intracranium. Oh, Prosecutor Gavin was quite clear about the poison. A lethal dosage of 0.002 milligrams paralyzes the central nervous system. If you drink that, even you, Mr. Justice, would be reduced to a quivering pile. Why are you using me as an example? Unfortunately, we weren't told everything. There was a vital omission in Prosecutor Gavin's information. An omission. Intracranium is as irrelevant as he says. But death doesn't come upon ingested, not immediately. That's because intracranium is slow acting. Slow acting? What? According to one forensic scientist, it's one of the most virulent poisons, but it absorbs into the body astonishingly slowly. It takes at least 15 minutes from the time of ingestion for adverse effects to show. We suppose that the moment Mr. Mission sipped the coffee was when he sealed his fate, then he would still have time left to enjoy his last cup of joe. Order. What's the meaning of this? If what the defendant says is correct, why, that contradicts the entire testimony we just heard. Well, Mr. Brushel, anything to say? On the record. Slow acting. Slow acting. It was irrelevant, alright? Even then, it had already begun digging its claws into the journalist. He's working on his scoop. Objection! It's Brushel, yeah? Colonel Brushel. Let's take a trip back down memory lane. The victim really died the instant he took a sip. Think it over. This is vital. You know what I think? I think that was a not so subliminal suggestion and I admit that there's cause of problem if he died when you say he died. I would be forced to say I'll leave this into my simple case. And you would be forced to say farewell to your article. Come again? You can't write a story based on conjecture, can you? If the case drags on, other reporters will pick up the scent. And you'd be forced to kiss your exclusive scoop goodbye. Scoop. Look, hey, wait a second. Just 1 second. We're waiting. Out with it. I think I just recalled a so-called important detail. A revival of recollection, end quote. A story survival, end quote. Totally utterly confused, end quote. Actually, I did notice something when I visited the studio. I read a poison that took me 3 times. That's what I've been saying for the last few minutes, apparently. Mr. Brushel, are you saying you noticed something that explains what happened? You bet I have. The antidote to our poison's contradiction, and quote, you might say. Or, I still have no idea what you're talking about, end quote, I might say. Only after an in-depth interview. Thanks, my journalist skills. I know who posted that copy. Order, order, order. As far as I can tell, the witness is standing by his testimony that Mr. Bishop died the instant after he drank. Because I'm standing by my testimony. And my dream of exclusive rights to this story. I suppose that there was still much to hope for. What was? Of course he wouldn't choose a simpler case, not him. Him? Phoenix Wright, who else? Brushel, report for us, if you would. What is it that you noticed? This court is a critical trial of the jury system. I'm afraid no room for doubt is permissible. You will testify to the court about what you noticed. And I arrived at the studio. Mr. Mission was at his desk. He seemed to be writing a letter, but he quickly sealed the envelope. I thought nothing of it at the time, of course. And I think about it, what if he was writing a suicide note? A suicide note. Yes, he had this look on his face. Man's face is scrutable as a quad-actor crazen. End quote. Suicide? Poor Mr. Misham. That means View is innocent. Did someone commit suicide in the middle of an interview? Oh. Very well. You may begin your cross-examination. When I arrived at the studio, Mr. Mission was at his desk. He seemed to be writing a letter, but he quickly sealed the envelope. Hold it! So he put the letter away when he saw you? Early reporter gets warm. End quote. That's my secret. I'm not sure I follow. What's the matter with the interview? I arrived 15 minutes ahead of schedule. And the tons. The opens and I barge in. You sure that's okay to do? I mean, isn't that unlawful entry? Really? Mr. Nissum sure seems to think so. You should have seen it. He grabbed his letter into that yellow envelope as fast as he could. I know the secret, but that's not one, and that was one. It does seem significant. Mr. Justice, I wonder if he's on the wing of something important. The defense finds testimony vital, Your Honor. Very well. Please add it to the testimony then. Hey, why not? My account comes free of charge. It was a yellow envelope. I heard it was left at the crime scene. Objection! As it just so happens, there was a single letter in a desk drawer at the scene. In a red envelope. What? Prosecutor Gavin. Yes. Was the yellow envelope found at the scene of the crime? Unfortunately, no. It's ill forehead. It's easy to mistake the color of an envelope. I guess. Not this envelope. You see, it was postmarked already. 7 years ago. Mr. Brushel. I can explain that. True. You want to get that letter in an envelope quantum. Get out of sight of my beady eyes, right? So he grabbed the nearest envelope and crammed away. And what about the whole red and yellow envelope contradiction, chump? Well, Mr. Justice, have you anything to say to the witness's claim? That night, the victim put a letter he had written in a red envelope. That's impossible. I like your expression. So full of confidence. It's simple, Willie. As it just so happens, the defense team investigated the contents of this envelope with the assistance of a forensic scientist. What? Note that this letter is addressed to Drew Misham. Oh. Why would he address a letter to himself? let alone send a suicide note to himself. Let's go. Order, order, order. Mr. Brushel, can you explain this to the court? Oh, my. How could I have forgotten? I suppose this happens to the best of us. When Porto gets old, forgets lots, and grows. I'm still waiting for an explanation, Mr. Brushel. Well, that's the thing. See, after he put his letter in that envelope, Mr. Misham said to search his desk drawer for something. His desk drawer? Yes, a stamp, a so-called postage stamp, and crowns. Stamp? Whatever for? Well, to his letter, perhaps. And then, well, yes, I think I saw him put it in his letterbox. Yes, it was a yellow envelope, and he put it in that box. Well, apparently this yellow letter has nothing to do with this case. Oh, how I wish it did. Just think if there were suicide notes. What a story. Starlight suicide note in front of reporter, vase, and quote. As I was saying, this has nothing to do with this case. That said, yes, Your Honor, it makes me wonder about the contents of that red envelope. $100,000 is quite a good deal of money. So this was from 7 years ago, y'all? So, am I finished here? Am I finished here? I was thinking of, going home to start writing. I hate to say what should be pretty obvious to anyone, but when you catch the scent of a story, you make that, rather unique face. Come on! That's only his active imagination, little else. End quote. Even I noticed something in my eyes aren't what they used to be. I'm starting to understand what all this perceiving stuff is about. It says active imagination. End quote. Please continue with your testimony. Tell us about the scent of a story. Hey, I'm the one asking the questions here. Usually. Actually, it took a bit of work to get a thumbs up on the interview. Reporter loved your story. Gets his interview. End quote. The story contains a certain case from 7 years ago. That one envelope probably has something to do with it. Say what you will, but use challenge word without compare. So you threatened to go to the press with this story? That's how you got your interview? Blackmail? Well, yes. No. It wasn't exactly black. I'm not... Something wrong, Mr. Brushel. This is my story, my tidbit. Journalist info is livelihood. End quote. I see. Well, you have me chatting away in here. What's going on out there? Where some Wally Woodworth or Sally Scooper gets wind of my story? They could be going to press while I'm going to waste. The court fears your pain, Mr. Brushel. Mr. Justice, let's pick up the pace. A certain case, 7 years ago. Wait, 7 years ago? Actually, it took a bit of work to get a thumbs up on the interview. But Levit's story gets his interview. End quote. So started concerned a sudden case from 7 years ago. Then right now, that probably had nothing to do with this. Say what you will, but Drew's talent was without compare. Gotcha! Strap much, Mr. Brushel? Yeah, well, a man can't help his glands, you know? It's more than that. When Mr. Misham's talent was mentioned, he suddenly began to strap buckets. You're hiding something about his talent. That's ridiculous. Now that it's time, let's show where Mr. Misham's true talent lay. If this happens, I have evidence showing the talent mentioned in that letter. Take that! This painting was found in Mr. Misham's studio. There are two parts of this painting. The first is it wasn't painted by Mr. Misham. The second is that there was another painting in the studio. This looked exactly like this one, except it was only half done. Then we have a letter discussing a payment of $100,000. Would suggest a certain business operation. The business of making forgeries. That is all, Your Honor. Everyone, please, everyone, can we keep this private? Please. This is my story, my scoop. That's a serious crime. Joe Misham is known as an artist these days. But there were rumors that another kind of art until a few years back. Another art meeting. Forgery? Mr. was talented. Talented at making precise detailed things. A fact that certain criminal elements were quick to discover. Criminal elements? What? Can't just be talking about... I'm talking about forging evidence. The rumors started circulating 7 years ago. 7 years ago? So always to understand that this letter, this payment of $100,000 was for exactly forged evidence nets titty profit. End quote. Order, order, order! Why, it's like our victim was living a double life! Aha! This is my chance! So the victim had ties to the criminal world, right? He could have had plenty of enemies we know nothing about. Objection! This is my first time hearing of this criminal world. We certainly found no criminal connections when we conducted our investigation. Objection! And how do you know? Do you explain all this money? You have to admit there's a possibility of some illegal activity here. Objection! But there is no proof tying this letter to our case. Our case was and remains simple from the beginning. Only the defendant could have poisoned the blood that you, of course. Hey! I poisoned my pants, but I'm writing reviews. Mr. Brushel, your testimony to this point has been quite unreliable. It doesn't speak well of your reporting economy. What are you talking about? My journalism is rock solid. Journalism's so solid you could stand an elephant on it. End quote. In any case, let's hear a summarized recap of your testimony. If we can ascertain the situation in that studio from the recap, the trial is over. Apollo, what's he talking about? The cross-examination showed Mr. Bush didn't have a reason or means to poison him. As long as there's no other suspects, then the killer had to be Vera. That's what. This next testimony is our last chance. Mr. Brushel, your testimony, please. The only other person in the studio that night was the defendant. It was Vera who poured the coffee. She's admitted as much as hell. The only thing that touched Drew's lips during the interview was that mug. And nothing left that studio after he died. Nothing. Clearly, the only one who could have poisoned him was his daughter. And that's testimony. Clear, succulent, and without room for doubt. Ah, sucks. You really think so? I believe this clarifies the situation that night. Very well, Mr. Justice. You may begin your final cross-examination. Right. I still have one trump card left to play, and I won't let this trial end until I use it. The only other person in the studio that night was the defendant. It was Vera who poured the coffee. She's admitted as much herself. The only thing that touched Drew's lips during the interview was that mug. And nothing left to censor after he died. Nothing. Hold it! Not one thing. You're sure? So can be. Well, with one exception. One exception? What? Journalistic spark Brushel this interview. Leave studio. End quote. Come on. It's a joke. Get it? Not funny. I know, but still. Did something leave the studio that night? Why does that sound familiar? Why have I heard something like that before? Now that we're proving our witness is a comedian of sorts, I'd like to turn to our defense attorney before returning to the testimony. Do you have any idea what, if anything, might have left the studio that night? I think one thing might have very well have left the studio that night, actually. A certain something that has vanished from the crime scene. Something other than a witness. Of course. Don't you tell me? Villa and Michelle. Believe me, any comic relief I may provide is entirely unintentional. Let's see what you've got for us, Mr. Justice. Well, this thing wasn't at the scene of the crime, so I can't show it to you. I do have evidence that shows how it could have been taken from the scene. Take that! This is the only link between that studio and the outside ward. A letterbox? What did Mr. Brushel just tell us? When he entered the studio on the night of the murder, the victim had just finished writing a letter. Yeah, I said that, yeah, it was true. Furthermore, you went on to tell us that he put the letter in a yellow envelope and put it in the letterbox. Ah, that very same letterbox was empty. In other words, that night, the yellow envelope disappeared. Objection! Yes, I'm speaking. So an envelope had disappeared from the scene of the crime. This changes nothing. Huh? Point, Mr. Justice. What we're trying to figure out here is how the poison got into Mr. Misham. It's really important that this envelope the witness says he saw disappear. Well, if it did disappear, then something did leave the studio that night. That seems very important to me. Very well then. The witness will add this to his testimony. You got it. I still think this fails to change anything in the forehead. I would be so sorry. The letter disappeared from the crime scene that night. This is exactly the opening I've been looking for. A letter was put in the post from the studio, but I hardly think that matters. Clearly, the only one who could have poisoned him was his daughter. Do you think Apollo? Everything he's saying seems so not flawed. Well, that's kind of what you want from a testimony, really. I need to keep my eyes on what matters. How and why was Blue Mission killed? Zero poured the coffee. That's not going to change. If that coffee didn't kill him, I need to find what did and prove it. The only other person who was here that night was a defendant. It was you who poured the coffee to me as much herself. The only thing that touched through his lips during the interview was that mug. Hold it! You're sure about that? Well, you really besides. I was busy gobbling mint candies the whole time. One of those candies might have been poisoned. Objection! At the time of the autopsy, no fresh fragments of mint filled the room. And no, mint residue was found. It was a long shot anyway. But then we used some trying to prove this. You think the victim ate, drank, or otherwise ingested something other than coffee? Well, Mr. Justice, you have some proof. Possibility is there, I can feel it, just maybe not prove it. Not yet. The possibility isn't going to cut it. Not now. Mr. Missman ingested that poison via a route other than that coffee. Proof is possible. There's nothing. You do not understand what we need, yeah? Proof, Ill Forehead, not possibilities. Of course. And Prosecutor Gavin, I hope you understand. I'm ready to give you that proof. What did you say? I have proof of the disappearing envelope. I saw him writing a letter. I did. It's picked up by the mailman, I assume? Of course. Which means that envelope had a stamp on it. A stamp. Ah. As we all know, stamps come with dry glue on the back. In order to use the glue, you have to wet it by licking the stamp. Objection! No one worth talking to actually lick stamps in this day and age. Objection! Even if you want to talk to him, you couldn't. He's dead, after all. Objection! Okay, you licked the stamp, but great. How does that explain the astrogram on the rim of the coffee? Objection! If he licked the back of a poisoned stamp, the poison would get on his tongue, yes? What would then happen if he put the coffee mug to his mouth, Those traces on the mug weren't the killer's doing. It was the other way around. What? The coffee mug didn't poison Mr. Misham. Mr. Misham poisoned the coffee mug himself. Order. But that does it? Call, if you would. Atracum is a slow-acting poison, yes? The poison entered his body when he put the stamp on that envelope. But his time wasn't up until the very moment he touched his lips to a cup of gel. You have something to add, Mr. Brushel. Uh-oh, his nose is picking up another scent! As I believe I mentioned earlier. Well, that's the thing, see. After he put his letter in that envelope, Mr. Misham sat there searching his desk drawer for something. Yes, a stamp, a so-called postage stamp, and quote. But you know, I don't seem to remember him ever finding one. Maybe he just wore out. Incidentally, we searched the desk drawer at the scene of the crime. There was no stamps, not a single one. pose a problem. How would you prove that the stamp was coated with poison? Actually, I'm glad no other stamps were found. It makes proving the stamp you used was poison possible. Good so, good so. You can't even prove there was a stamp at the scene in the first place. Well, let's hear what the defense has to say anyway. Where's your evidence that proves the existence of this poison stamp? Take that! Well, that's only as a cute little flame, and by little I mean really little. It was on the victim's desk, Your Honor. Quite empty, as you can see for yourself. I noticed that too during my inspection. So what? Apparently you weren't as observant as you should have been. You see, when you saw this frame, it was missing something quite important. Missing something? Yes, a pale bluish stain on the inside of the frame. Antiquarian residue. What? Why wasn't I told about this? The frame is only 2 inches square. The face of the frame is even smaller. Maybe an inch wide at most. You aren't saying. Oh, but I am. Tell me, what fits in such a small frame? A commemorative stamp, perhaps? Order. This frame? Impossible! Prosecutor Gavin? Why would he put something like that on his desk? Don't tell me he had it there so he could commit suicide if the mood struck. You know, can I say something? I had a thought, see? What, Mr. Brushel? Please stop chilling around like that. Get like that. There's a lot of money in that. Words is friends, makes enemies too, and quits. So the poison stamp might have been a mortal weapon aimed at him? Objection! Oh, Rich. That's Rich. Leave the ridiculous flights of fancy to the Governor's song lyrics, please. Finally, something we agree on. The stamp was a mortal weapon? Nonsense. Mortar is a simple business. Who would go to such lengths? No one. Oh, I disagree. Again? Call, if you would, the victim's reclusive lifestyle. You, Miss hid from the ward. He avoided meetings. His only contact with the outside world was the mail. The mail? Now, if you want to kill someone you couldn't meet, but you knew red letters, a stamp would be the perfect weapon. Ridiculous. Where is your proof? I want proof. Show us evidence that this poison stamp was sent to him as a mortal weapon. Finally starting to come together. What is it, Apollo? Your fists are trembling. I think I know what happened. I don't believe it, but I can see it. I think I know how Mr. Mission was killed. Well, fill us in, Mr. Justice. A certain piece of evidence points to the truth, Your Honor. I can show you how someone with the intent to kill sent Mr. Mission the stamp of death. Isn't this the envelope, the one from 7 years ago? Think about the text of the letter again. There were 2 pages of the envelope. This is page 1. And this is page 2. I want to draw your attention to one phrase in particular. Send in the enclosed envelope with the enclosed stamp within 3 days. The enclosed stamp, Your Honor. Ah! In other words, the stamp, poison, on the stamp, lick, gasp, and quote. Now, what if he had done exactly as the letter asked? He would sign the document, put it in the envelope, and put the stamp on it, right? He would put it in his letterbox. 2 minutes wouldn't have elapsed between affixing the stamp and mailing the letter. The clock started ticking, and when the time came, he drew his last breath. And the mortal weapon would be taken away from the scene. Quite conveniently, thanks to the postal system. Such a splendid imagination you have, old forehead. Let me confirm one thing with you, if I might. So, this poison stump was inside this envelope from 7 years ago? Yeah? Is that what you have us believe? Really? Wow. It is a little bit of a stretch, but there's a possibility. Yes, very small possibility. How small, I wonder? A poison stamp in this envelope? A stamp that then became the motor. How do you intend to prove this seemingly coincidence? Well, it was 7 years ago. We don't even know who sent that letter. And the answer is silence, I see. Oh well, I'm with you. Is that nice to pick on the fool on Clavier? Ah. Abba? Well, like my Christoph Gavin impression? Does that sound like him? Don't quit your day job. Don't you have a crime scene to be looking up to for one detective? Someone had to come dig you out all of this mess you're making of this case. Mess? You know, none of this would happen if you just trusted in science a little more. You can find out if that stamp was in that envelope easy. Can't explain yourself through one detective? Glare at me all you want, but science is on my side. It's on the residue, right? That's right! The poison detective's surfactant spray. Produce the red envelope at once. You can open it on the authority of the court. Well, would you look at that? No mistaking it. That's poison residue. I don't believe it. A motor weapon from the past. Now, 7 years later, it bears its fangs at last.
Objection!
Actually, Jeff Francis, tell me why. Why didn't this meeting take place 7 years ago? Well, there's one possibility. Maybe Mr. Missing figured it out. Figured it out. What out? He realized that the person who sent this letter wanted him dead. So he sent his reply with a different stamp. There is decisive evidence in a frame. Hold it. You're still here? Can I make a statement here on the record? I spent worse than tooth Brushel came to scoop as mine. Drew me some cold and cold blood. I sent a 7-year-old letter and growth. No, maybe something more succinct. Star falls on the 7-year delay and growth. Order, order! I see no room for further argument here. But I admit, this is now coming as quite a shock. To think that the motor weapon uses mouth up to 7 years. Stamp his ticket straight to afterlife and quote. I think the witness is a bad influence on our judge. I see no need for further debate on this matter. The sending of that letter 7 years ago would hardly have been undefended. Apollo! I think we just won! Very well. This court finds the defendant.
Objection!
Is this the bright future of our legal system? Prosecutor Gavin? A ticket to the afterlife from 7 years ago? Tickets for Gavin's shows are invalid after 2 weeks. But it doesn't make sense any other way. It boggles my mind that so many people haven't noticed this. There's a fatal contradiction in L4Head's claim. Contradiction? Poison stuff was placed in this envelope 7 years ago. Well, why it was framed until now? That's the case. Then why would you listen have done what you could? I'm gonna explain that. You must have realized it was poisoned.
That's all I sum up. 7 years ago, the Folger drew Missum set a trap and put the stamp in a frame. I do not debate this. This begs the question. Why 7 years later did he use that stamp on that night of the murder? Silly, you don't think it's good that Mr. Missum simply forgot? He put the metal weapon in a frame on his desk for 7 years and forgot. You expect us to believe he's playing the trap on himself? Well, I admit this is all quite shocking myself. It does seem highly unlikely that he would fall foul of a trap that had been sitting on his desk for 7 years. Apollo, I don't think we're winning this anymore. I'm glad to see we're all back in the real world now. Welcome back to reality. We've been waiting for you.
Objection!
Okay then, how do you explain the poison stamp that was in this envelope? The poison stamp? What exactly is this poison stamp again? Have you brought it to court for us? I see no proof that such a thing ever existed.
Objection!
What about the edge cream residue, huh? I agree that this seems to be edge cream residue. But unfortunately, it's under no stamp. Yeah, but if your process poison stamp from this, you Missum never would have used it. That is all. I believe we'll come to a conclusion again. Apollo, we won the whole time? I can't believe it. The poison traces match up. It can't be a coincidence. I'd like to bring some closure to this issue sometime this year, Mr. Justice. Yes, Your Honor. Let's review the facts and see where we stand. 7 years ago, Drew Missum received a red envelope. There were traces of the poison air chrome on the documents inside the envelope. A similar trace was also found at the crime scene in this tiny pixel frame. The defense has indicated the possibility of a yellow envelope. An envelope that left the scene of the crime with the poison stamp on it. Yes, but even if this envelope contained the poison stamp, and Drew Missum known this, put it in a frame, he never would have used that stamp. I'm afraid you're right. This means there's a fatal flaw in the defense's case. I have been on the wrong track this whole time. I'm sure of it. The traces of antiquarium, envelope, the frame, and Drew Missum's mysterious death. They're all connected somehow. Well, Mr. Justice, do you have a conclusion for us? The defense stands by its case, Your Honor. We've seen that the logical outcome of the evidence makes no sense. Which means that one of our clues must be a fake. Ah, a fake clue. Fascinating. And if we find this fake, your life fantasies will prove quite reasonable, yeah? A fake clue that's thrown us off the poisonous resident other than... The victim was a fake clue? I'm afraid I don't understand. I'll explain. We have an envelope, a frame, and a mug, linked by poison. That all makes sense. What doesn't make sense is the victim himself.
Objection!
Congratulations, you completely lost me. So the fake evidence is none other than the master of fake himself, Del Forza? That makes a good story, I'll give you that. This fake clue, fakes, forgeries. I know that face. That's... I just had an idea face. I don't know if I'm right, but I'm going with it anyway. What if our forger is the fake? Come again. 7 years ago, our forger slipped a trap and stepped aside. 7 years pass, and the forger turns into that very same trap and dies? Why?
That's what I want to know.
Because the forger who was killed was a fake. Here we are again. The victim was a fake? One forger smelled the trap, one forger fell into the trap. That's two forgers, and one of them was a fake.
Order, order, order!
So, you are telling us that the victim was a fake? Well, who was the fake? Who was the real forger? You'd better not be claiming there was some kind of shootaloo.
I'm afraid you're going to have to back up your story. Mr. Justice, show us just who the real Drew Misham was.
Drew Misham wasn't the real forger. There's only one other person it could have been.
Understood, Your Honor.
Forger Drew Misham was himself a forger. The real forger was...
Take that!
There can only be one explanation, really. The real identity of the forger known as Drew Misham is none other than his only daughter, Vera Misham.
Order, order, order! Mr. Justice, this is going out on a limb, even for you.
Kind of agree. I mean, Vera? A forger? Let's consider it before you write it off entirely. If you look at the paintings in the studio, one fact becomes quite clear. Forgery had been taking place in that studio for quite some time. The forger wasn't caught in that trap 7 years ago. This can only mean that the one who was caught in the trap wasn't the forger.
Actually, that does make a certain kind of sense.
One more thing. Only two sets of fingerprints were found in the forger's studio. Drew Misham's and Vera Misham's. If we know that Drew Misham wasn't the forger, that leaves only one possibility by process of elimination. The forger was Vera Misham. Well... fascinating.
Vera Misham. Been paying attention to the trial so far.
This is as couldn't be done with it, Sally. Who are you? Who is the forger, Drew Misham?
Was that an expression of emotion I saw on her face? She still holds it above Hugh Gavin's face.
I'm used to being stepped at by Fulans, believe me, though they usually talk to me too. Tell us, were you the one who forged those works of art?
Yes. So the forger Drew Misham was you?
Yes, it was me.
What? What?
The court was in an uproar, and it wasn't coming down. We had to break for a 10-minute recess.